Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most famous stories from the Three Kingdoms era. But we're not here to talk about a brilliant victory. Nope. We're here to unpack a catastrophic mistake made by an absolute genius and the forgotten warning that could have stopped it all. So, let's just start with the central puzzle here. When you think of the strategist Zhuge Liang, you picture this infallible mastermind, right? A guy who could practically conjure victory out of thin air. So how on earth did a genius like him make a blunder so massive that it completely unraveled his most important military campaign? All right, to really get what happened, you need to know the three people at the heart of this drama. First up, we've got Liu Bei, the veteran warlord, the emperor, a guy who built his kingdom through decades of actual fighting. Then there's his right-hand man, the legend himself, Zhu Zhulong. And finally, Ma Su, Zhu Zhulong's brilliant, and I mean brilliant, young protege. Now, our story doesn't kick off on a battlefield with swords clashing. No, it begins in a quiet room, at the deathbed of the emperor, Liu Bei. And this is where the first, and honestly the most crucial piece of the puzzle is laid down. So as Liu Bei is getting ready to pass on the fate of his entire kingdom, he's got a lot on his mind. But one of his final warnings isn't about grand strategy or enemy armies. It's about the character of just one man, Ma Su. I mean, listen to how blunt that is. His words exceed his actual abilities. In today's terms, he was basically saying this guy is all talk. Ma Su could talk a great game about strategy, but Liu Bei, a man who had been judging people on the battlefield his entire life, he saw this fatal gap between what Ma Su knew from books and what he could actually do. And let's be clear, this wasn't some friendly advice. It was a direct order. Do not entrust him with any important military tasks. This was the final piece of wisdom from an emperor to his most trusted minister, and it came from a lifetime of being able to read people in the heat of battle. Okay, so this is the big question, right? If the warning was that clear, from a man Zhu Liang respected so deeply, why would a mind as brilliant as his just ignore it? Well, the answer is all about the clash between two very different kinds of wisdom. A clash we still see today, in boardrooms, on teams, everywhere. You see, Zhuge Liang was an intellectual at his core. He loved sharp, theoretical minds, and in Ma Su, he found a kindred spirit. This guy, Ma Su, had studied all the military classics. He could debate strategy for hours and go toe-to-toe with Zhuge Liang's own intellect. To the great strategist, Ma Su looked like the perfect successor. He was the star employee with the flawless resume. And this right here, this slide, is the entire conflict in a nutshell. On one side, you have Liu Bei's take, which was forged in the fire of real-world bloody experience. He judged Ma Su on his practical skills and found him lacking. But on the other side, you've got Zhuge Liang's view, which was based on intellectual admiration. He judged Ma Su on his book smarts and saw a genius. So that brings us to the Northern Expedition, and to one of the most infamous military disasters in the entire Three Kingdoms saga. This is the moment where Zhuge Liang's faith in theory is about to get tested in the most brutal way possible. So during his first huge campaign against the rival kingdom of Wei, Zhuge Liang needed to lock down this vital pass at Jieting, and ignoring all the other experienced battle-hardened generals he had, he gave this incredibly important job to his protege, Ma Su. He directly violated Liu Bei's dying wish. Well, once he was in command, Ma Su's inexperience was just catastrophically exposed. First, he flat-out ignores Zhuge Liang's specific orders to set up camp on the road to block the pass. Instead, he goes by a textbook rule: always control the high ground. So he marches his entire army up onto a mountain, totally confident he's in a superior position, but he completely overlooks one simple, practical little thing: water. Now, the enemy general, Zhang He, he was a seasoned veteran. He didn't need to launch some big, bloody assault. He just had to be smart. His army swarmed the base of the mountain, took control of the only water source, and then they just sat back and let thirst and panic do all the work for them. The result was as fast as it was predictable. Without water, Ma Su's army just dissolved into chaos. Discipline completely shattered. The battle turned into a total rout, and the strategic pass of Jieting was lost. This one single failure forced Zhuge Liang's entire northern expedition into a humiliating full-scale retreat. The fallout from Jieting was immense. It wasn't just a military loss. For Zhuge Liang, it was a devastating personal failure, one that forced him to face the very real consequences of his misplaced trust. Think about the position he was in. The army was demanding discipline. The court was demanding accountability. To maintain order and the integrity of military law, the commander who was responsible for the disaster, he had to pay the price. And that commander was Ma Su. The decision was agonizing. And it gives us this famous phrase, shedding tears to execute Ma Su, which captures the moment perfectly. Zhuge Liang was forced by duty to order the death of the man he had mentored, the man he had admired, and the man he had trusted so wrongly. It was just this horrible mix of professional duty and deep personal grief. And in that moment of sorrow and failure, Zhuge Liang finally understood Liu Bei's warning. It wasn't just him being cautious, it was the absolute truth. The old warlord's gut feeling, his ability to see a person's real character beyond their intelligence, had been so much more accurate than his own brilliant analysis. And that's why this story still sticks with us. It's a timeless lesson about the limits of genius and the incredible value of experience. It leaves all of us with a really crucial question, not just for ancient generals, but for anyone in a leadership position today. When the stakes are high, do you bet on raw intelligence, or do you listen to the kind of wisdom that can only be won on the battlefield?